So we're here in day 2 in Barcelona of the UN climate talks, and just came from a press conference and just going to get some perspectives here. And if you'd like to introduce yourself.
My name is Hugh Cole. I'm from South Africa, working for Oxfam as a climate change advisor in Africa.
And would you like to give a little bit of a recap of what you presented on in this press conference?
I was giving a developing country perspective on the US and EU offers that are on the table so far. And what's very clear is that from a developing country perspective, these are falling far short of what's required. The EU have put, for example, finance numbers on the table, but there are some significant challenges with those finance numbers, not least of all because they're expecting developing countries to contribute to the finance for responding to the climate crisis. The second, if you look at the United States, all developing countries feel they have from the United States so far is empty promises. There is nothing concrete on the table. So if you look at those at the limited progress from the United States, and you look at what's on the table from the EU, what you realize is that at least the EU has put numbers on the table, which puts the ball in the United States court. There's a summit happening in Washington today, a bilateral between the EU and the US, and we really hope that that'll be an opportunity for both leaders to make significant steps forward to moving forward together and injecting some political momentum into the process. And what I also wanted to emphasize to the group gathered here today is that we need to ground what's happening in the different negotiating tracks in what is actually happening in Africa. And I related the story of a lady called Constance Akot from Uganda, who gave an incredibly powerful testimony recently about how her community is being affected by repeated and more severe droughts and floods that are undermining their ability to develop. It's this urgency amongst their constituents that is driving the developing country negotiators. We also discussed very briefly the fact that the Africa group has decided to ask the chair of the Kyoto Protocol working group to suspend progress on all other elements except for Annex 1 emission reduction targets. That's the area they want to focus on in the next few days. If I had to summarize developing country concerns, particularly around finance, the position is basically no adequate new money, no deal. And that has been said publicly by a number of key negotiators. The other thing that I want to emphasize is that for developing countries, they're being essentially faced with an unfair and unjust choice. They're being faced with a choice between no deal at all or a bad deal. And that's not acceptable to the developing countries, particularly to the Africa group, and it's just fundamentally not fair.